Welcome to Carefree and Conscious, paranormal and profound authors with stunning true stories. If you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe. I'm your host, Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium and Intuition Educator. Today on Carefree and Conscious, Quantum Physics and Amazing Experiences with Katie Norris. We had some interesting paranormal phenomena as we recorded this interview. I'll get to that in just a moment. Katie is the author of Quantum Design, a beginner's guide to the fascinating world of quantum physics. This book is truly for everyone. At an early age, she began creating a habit of self-study on different topics of interest. She taught herself to play the piano and began writing songs, and continued in music and theater through high school and college while self-studying physics. She graduated with a bachelor's in theater and music and moved to New York City to start her career in the theater world, all the while continuing her exploration into how things work. You can learn more about Katie Norris at her website, katienorris.org, and see her at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles, California in February. Before this replay of the interview with Katie Norris, I want to show you a clip. We had some strange phenomena during this session. Here we go. Something weird happened here. It was just like some goofy, discarnate guy was interrupting Katie, basically. And I could clairvoyantly see his outline, get a glimpse of him. And he was just interrupting. Not bad or nasty or anything like that, just meddler, like almost like somebody at a party having boorish behavior and getting in the way or making themselves important. I think we can say that we both have felt some energy walking through here, and I could see it like around as like a human form, almost like somebody's really inquisitive about what we're talking about, and it was like it's getting hard for me to talk, getting hard for you to. So for our listeners, is that Palo Santo or sage?
No, it's just Indian incense.
She's lighting some incense to just move along. Whoever was just here, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's kind of like a signal, like the party's over.
Oh, that smells amazing. Okay.
What is it?
Going. It is just this Indian incense, and this is leftover from a friend who was a monk who passed.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
You guys, we deal with this. I was on somebody's podcast, and we kept getting power surges. We're kind of talking about what a lot of people think is a dry subject, quantum physics.
Oh, no.
And now, let's start the show. Katie Norris, welcome to Carefree and Conscious.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
I'm really glad you're here. I've enjoyed meeting you and getting to know you a little bit and getting familiar with your work. And of particular interest to me is quantum physics and how in the heck you get so interested as a child, even in the great unknown. Can you tell us about that? Were you like a lot of us, a lot of our listeners, we kind of felt like we were the weird child?
Yeah.
Is that you? Were you different?
Yeah. I was a bit of the weird child. I grew up like in the woods in Maryland, so I was always climbing trees and talking to plants and animals, and spent a lot of time in the woods, and it was such a wonderful way to have a childhood. And then would spend time in fields and trying to connect to energy. So all that stuff was kind of interesting really early on, and then I wanted to know, like, okay, what's behind all this? Like, why is this working? Why is this, like, there's a mystery there. So I just got into sort of like wanting to know things, and wanting to know how things worked, but not like in just a sort of mechanical way, but in like a what's below that kind of way. So then I was studying science all through high school and college, and I just kept getting deeper and deeper, and my focus was on more artistic avenues for my professional life, but it was created this self-study habits as well for quantum physics and dove deeper into it that way.
Did you want to be a professor or a teacher or something like that? Or did you know, hey, this is for me? Or what were you, when people asked you what you want to be when you grew up, what would you say?
Yeah. So to answer to your first question, do I want to be a teacher? Never. Never wanted to be a teacher ever. I mean, I love Broadway. I love musicals. I love creating. I love, when you get to be on stage and you're having to exchange the energy with the person on stage and then with the audience. And it's sort of this whole like beautiful synchronistic dance like that to me is amazing. And then to be able to make any living off of that was my whole dream profession.
So you're telling us that you knew as a child you were into music and dance and song, but you also had this natural curiosity about what lies beneath how all these things on earth and things around me work. Well, you end up writing a book that I'm going to tell the title of it, Quantum Design, A Beginner's Guide to the Fascinating World of Quantum Physics. Quantum physics, Broadway and dancing. Everybody needs to be varied, diverse, and have different interests. But how did this exactly happen, this book?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, my love was always on stage and performing, and it still is. But when I've been studying this stuff on my own in this self-study, just in the joy of wanting to know this and this passion of wanting to know this. And so I developed over the years all of this collective information. And then I was going to these conferences on ancient wisdom and new technology ideas and new theories in quantum physics or whatever that we're all encompassing in this like consciousness community as we all run into. And so then my friends would go to these presentations on like the holographic principle, or, my friend talks about, and then I have another friend that talks about the proton and some implications that get into the spiritual realm of sort of new discoveries of what that could lead to. And so these are like fascinating topics, And then my friends would come after the presentation, and they would just come to me because they know I knew a basic of quantum physics at least. And they'd be like, okay, can you just explain like a core aspect of this so that all of this other cool stuff makes sense? So then I would sit and I would talk with them, and I loved sharing this information. And so I would find out wherever they were at. Okay, some people have this much knowledge, some people have starting at nothing, some people, okay, they have a lot, but they just never heard about it in this type of way. So I spent all these different sort of like hours and hours at different conferences joyfully explaining this stuff, and to different people that are coming from different cultures, that are coming from different backgrounds. And, just because we maybe didn't study quantum physics doesn't mean we didn't study something, so it's just because we don't know this subject doesn't mean we're not really smart. And so a lot of people had just sort of this preconceived idea of, oh, I can't figure this out. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, of course you can. So I just had this joyful experience of sharing this in all these different ways that were easily relatable. And then it made it like, oh yeah. Oh, I got this, at least conceptually. Perhaps I can't, the math, definitely takes a lot more academic training and all of this kind of stuff, but you don't need a PhD to at least understand the basics, which I think are important in many ways. So why not know about it? I like the fact that, okay, we all have electromagnetic fields around us, right? Like this is something we can measure, but before we had tools to measure it, there were still electromagnetic fields around us. Before we knew about the magnetosphere around the planet, there was still a magnetosphere. So just because we haven't gotten to the point where we have such fine-tuned, subtle tools that we can perfectly measure what's in these energy realms outside of this sort of parameters of what our tools can measure, doesn't mean it isn't there. So it's also like kind of finding this point. There's this constant called it's in the book, it's called the fine structure constant. And it's sort of like the ratio between, I mean, it gets a little more deeper than that, but my my like the part that I feel like is the fairy tale part of it is like it's like when something goes from a wave to a particle, and that ratio distance. So that's like when something goes from a thought to a thing, and the fact that we can like narrow in on that is just so interesting to me. And so just putting this in a way that's just fun and easy for anyone to engage to, it just takes off this like pressure of, oh, this is for PhDs to understand. And, you know, or I have to know all of this math to get these concepts. So then you can go hear really big, beautiful theories and not be overwhelmed by them, but you can be part of the magic and the mystery. You can be part of this like evolutionary unfolding, because we're still rediscovering, what all these quantum physics are anyway. And then it sort of like ties in time and what ancient civilizations did. It's just, to me, is just the core of what ties everything together, ties timelines together, ties energies together, ties each other together. And so it's just beautiful. And I just love that I can just put it in this like fun, I can express my artistic side in it and talk about it with different people and share it that way. So,
Well, you're clearly excited about the topic, and that makes people say, well, there must be something that's not dry about this, which I know that there is, because what quantum physics does for us is it provides a framework for us to talk about consciousness and what is consciousness and where does it exist. And there's a consensus, I believe, that consciousness is non-local, that it doesn't get confined to the heart or the brain or a part of the body, which you're understanding through the research that you have done about what the ancients thought about consciousness.
Yeah, so I've also studied a lot of stuff from ancient India as well, and ancient Egypt, and then Laird Scranton, who has done incredible, prolific work in ancient civilizations and where consciousness falls into play and what their understanding is. He wrote the foreword to the book, and that was the biggest honor ever. So through all of my sort of research plus researching whatever a bunch of other people have researched, I sort of feel like it's the ancients had sort of, I think, this collective easy understanding of, I've never had to put this in words before, I love this. So I think they had this underlining understanding of, I don't know how to say this without getting into spirituality, without getting into like meditation.
You're on Carefree and Conscious, so I think you got to get into this.
Okay. Like that's true. I guess then it gets into meditation, and it gets into when we tune in to ourselves and that energy in our beings. And then you get into what in ancient India they call prana, that life force energy. And then that is conscious energy. And once you experience that, it's like, okay, if you haven't experienced that before, it's like me going back in time to, I don't know, 500 BC or something, and trying to explain electricity. Like trying to explain, okay, I walk into a room and I can flip a switch and a light comes on in a bulb. I don't have to light a fire. And it's like, just imagine how hard that would be to explain that. But we don't have to know how all the electric circuits work in order to walk in a room and turn on a light switch. So once you have the experience of that, then it's just like, oh, okay, this is something that I just know now. So I feel like the ancients just had this sort of understanding of just like, this is how we control this energy, and this was the consciousness. And there you go, my convoluted answer, because I never practiced saying that one before.
I think it's very instructive. And let's talk about how energy moves based on what you've studied. That we know energy is moving through the earth all the time. It's moving through our bodies all of the time. You write about some atomic particles. And so how is energy moving? What's happening?
Well, the Earth itself is a being. So we have the telluric currents and the electromagnetic currents of the Earth, and we're not really on the Earth. We are the Earth.
Really interesting, because as you were talking about the energy, I'm seeing you because we're on Zoom. Your aura just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and there are these guides now standing around you. It's like the ancient grandmothers are around you. Wow, you've
Wow. And that's amazing because I don't see them. So like you have such an incredible gift. And so I think that's kind of cool too. We all interpret
there.
and love different aspects of energies and then put us all together. And yeah. So
They love hearing you talk. They love seeing what you're doing. They can make it hard for you to
yeah. I'm like, oh, and then the zoom and then the macro and the micro, and then I'm seeing it all at once. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
But I want to hear more about how we're not on the earth, that we're of the earth and part of the earth. So we're one organism,
Oh,
basically.
okay. So yeah, so I mean, we have silica in us. We have, copper and different minerals and that aspect of water. We have water and just our whole bodies are sort of conductive materials. So it's almost like if you think about the neurons in the brain, moving around, it's almost like we're neurons. And so, I mean, us having this manifestation in a human body. I don't mean us as our core soul, or any of the amazing implications that could be if we're like simultaneously living a life on another planet or in another dimension or something like that. So I just kind of mean in our human experience for
Yes.
that. Yeah. But that's kind of cool because then we realize we're tools, and we're tools for accessing that consciousness in the energy in this three-dimensional reality. And then we can sort of create whatever we want from it. Like you just follow the laws of the universe and you just create your dreams. You make your dreams a reality. And that's what's so fantastic about it too. You just, if you focus on what you want and you're not thinking of what you don't want, the energy has to flow downstream. So then that's like water. And then you let the universe sort of unfold everything around you. And
The physical body is the tool. It's like, I think of the physical body, it's like the car, the consciousness is the driver. And if you have this really cool car and you never use the great stereo system, or you never use the rear mirror or the rear camera or any of that stuff, it's like, wow, what a waste. You went through all this in the car metaphor. You spent all this money on a car. In the life metaphor, you waited to incarnate and you got here and you've gone through good times and joy and you've gone through suffering, and you're not using all of the intuition that you have. You're not understanding that you're made of you're saying silica and all these other things, that's star stuff right there. So help
absolutely.
experience how special we are, even if we don't feel like we're special, I guess.
Yeah. And it's star stuff, but it's also in the planet,
Yeah.
right? So this planet is star stuff.
How does the existence of non-human intelligent beings fit in with your cosmic worldview?
I've been meditating for like over 10 years, and I've done a lot of longer meditations, and some had beautiful, powerful experiences that sort of led me to okay, wait, I have to back up. I was raised Catholic, so I didn't even believe that reincarnation existed.
Okay.
And then when I was like 12, I started asking too many questions, and they're like, literally said, go sit in this dark room and think about what you've done. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I sat there and I thought about the questions in a dark room, and I thought and I thought. And then at some point, like, everything straightened, my eyes lifted a little bit, my hands open, and I had these beautiful experiences. And then I just, at one point, a little bit later in life, I'd say, I remembered a past life. And then it went from, not knowing if reincarnation was real to not being able to undo that experience. So then after that, it sort of opened the door, and it was like the 60-watt light bulb. And then it was like, okay, then you can expand to this, megawatt light bulb. And then, so as more and more bandwidth sort of became available, then I started to have more understanding and interaction, connectedness, I guess is the best word, with beings that are in the non-physical, and not as clearly as you, but in deep meditation, beings that are non-physical, and then also beings that are in other planets or dimensions. And yeah, so it fits in the way of experience. So I feel like, a lot of people have had experience and they're maybe sort of like still feeling it out. And some are maybe like intense, and some are like subtle nudges. But yeah, so mine, it fits in, but I feel like I have to still be mindful when I say that to people, when I also have a book on quantum physics, because then they're like, okay, which are you? And they're trying to put you in one category or the other.
Let me ask you this. Would heavy hitter physicists still hang out with you? I mean, do they or write the forward to your book if you brought on the woo?
You know what? That was the best question you could ask. You just completely broke it down. I think I was trying to be careful. And yeah, I was just like, oh, what would heavy physicists think? And I was like, oh, no, they would absolutely say the same thing. So never mind. Yes. Yeah.
That's cool. That's so
Yeah, that is cool.
it's a
So
time where,
absolutely, yes.
good. It's like it's a time where we have to develop our expertise, our unique gifts, and bring them to the fore and share them with people. And whether that's knowledge or whatever it is. But Katie, can you ever learn like enough? Is there a point where I think you've talked about an event horizon?
Yeah, that's great. I love that idea of the event horizon. And for anybody that doesn't know, in a black hole, you have that area where a photon is going to be warped so much. Once it hits that event horizon, it's going to go into that black hole. And then if you have entangled photons, it's like, what happens to the energy that goes in and what happens there? And then there's radiation that comes out of a black hole that we're measuring, and there's so these cool factors with it. It's not like a black hole to nothing, but that event horizon being like that point of no return, right? That point of like, okay, and now you're sitting there, you have all this science, you're scrutinizing this whole time just to make sure you've had your hat of discernment on, going through, making sure this isn't just imagination, and subconscious, confusion. But then you go and you get to that event horizon. You've been through all this discernment, you've meditated on it, you've taken it in, you've internalized it, and then you're looking forward and you're like, there's nowhere else to go except for this is a spiritual, we are the dream. We are the dreamer, and we are that being dreamt. What I had an experience of, which changed me forever, was two sides of the void. So like, I'm just going to cup it like this. So let's say you have the chakras in the middle, and then you have this high vibrational void, and then you have this very low vibrational void. And one is, I am nothing. I am nowhere. I am nothing. What does this all mean? And then the other one is, I am nothing. I am nowhere. I am no one. Wow. Like, this is all love. And so they're just two sides of the same coin, two sides of this creational experience, of this vibration.
And I was getting chills when you were talking about the two sides of the coin, and that they're actually the same. And when you talk about the black hole and a point of no return, what's the point of no return for us as a society, when we're thinking like our crowd, the people we see, like we go to, like we're going to be at Conscious Life Expo in February in Los Angeles. And, I'll link that for folks where it's like we're all, sometimes it's like we're talking to our usual audience is there and our usual colleagues. And then every once in a while we get new people, and I hope more new people come in and have conversations. But what are all your studies? What do you hope people get from what you share? What do you want? What's the thing you really want them to walk away with?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say about the Conscious Life Expo. I mean, if you think about it, everyone there is totally different points of view on things. You know, some people are there and they're very like science folks, focused. Some people are just like meditation, and it is just all let's do chant and meditation. And then some people feel very connected to a galactic community. Some people are a galactic community, so we have mediums, and we have people who connect with angels, and people who can, read energy and cards, and all this like different stuff. And a lot of it is maybe one point of view that is maybe almost even in contradiction with another point of view. And it's all honored in harmony. It's thousands of people, and it's 4 floors, and you just go where you feel most resonant with. There's no like you have to agree with anything. So it's just this incredible like event on the planet where a bunch of people are coming together with these like incredibly powerful ideas of consciousness from their own experiences and their own studies, presenting on all these different topics, and it's all in harmony. Like, are you kidding me? It's so cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm beyond honored to even be speaking there, and I'm excited that you're speaking there. And so yeah, and so my actual presentation there is going to be more on the ancient civilization studies that I did. I went to Egypt like 5 times, and then I also did like the initiatic path through the stone circles in the UK, which is an arduous process. You think the one going up the Nile is intense, and it is. It's intense and like breaks you down until you're nothing and you want to die. And then you get reborn. And then going through the initiatic path, it is also like 3.5 weeks, hundreds of stone circles. And the weather is UK weather. The food is UK food. And so, like I studied a lot with that, and then a lot of my own studies of the ancient Indian things. And I've sort of taken symbology from the different aspects. And I feel like there's one sort of point of view that I think makes this duality a beautiful experience instead of one that can feel so polarizing. And I kind of talk about that a little bit. And then I talk about sort of what these spiritual or these symbols of these ancient civilizations kind of all connect to, and how there's one interpretation that is the very common interpretation. And the interpretation I'm going to share, I think, leads us to very empowering realizations of ourselves. So I'm really excited to just share that. And there's some quantum physics in that, but a lot of it is the symbology of mostly ancient Egypt, but definitely India as well.
Do you feel like it's important for people to meet in person? I know we both do a lot of stuff on Zoom. I joined Zoom in 2015. Fortunately, I have Diane helping me with certain things I can't figure out how to do. You've gotten to experience that. But I've been on here forever in big groups. But during COVID, it really kind of helped us out a whole heck of a lot. But what do you feel energetically happens when people actually get together?
Yeah. There's a proximity level there, and I mean, the Zoom has been awesome because I feel like you can feel stuff. Obviously, you can feel stuff over Zoom, so I feel like that was good to keep us kind of connected. But being in person is like you just have that proximity of energy exchange, and I don't know what your experience is, but I feel like my intuition is expanded as if I've done like a 6-hour meditation, and I've just been there for like 2 hours, It's by the end of the day, it's just sort of like the synchronistic ebb and flow, and you just like know things and feel things, and they get like downloaded into your being. Yeah, it's not really a replacement for being in person.
That's a good way to put it. It's like a download into your being that's very different. And also, it helps with that sense of community. And we now, probably more than in a long, long time, we need a sense of community. We need to know that nobody's alone. And yes, I love the online stuff a whole lot, but when there's something out there and it's been going on every year for a couple decades, and if you can go. I think that's really important. What's is there
I think also because you're doing energy work together in a lot of them, or you're meditating together. And so when you're sitting in that space and you're doing that, and you're having that focus of wanting to expand, wanting to improve, you're not just coming together in a community, you're coming together for self-improvement or self-expansion. And so like that just, I think, really affects the community.
Yeah, and there's all these conversations that just sort of spring up, just drinking coffee in the lobby or whatever. And the bar is great. Whether you drink or don't drink, it doesn't matter. People are talking. That's a good thing. What is there a thought that you want to leave us with, or a message, or a recommendation that you want to leave our listeners with today? People would love to hear, what Katie wants to leave us with.
I will just say, beautiful underlining this whole idea of why we do any of this stuff, why we want to explore any of this stuff, why we want to do any of this stuff is so that we can step into our connection with everybody around us, with who we are, with what we are. And then that's sort of if you break that down more and more, you get into what is it you want? Because if you can go in the direction you want. So what do you want? And then I feel like we kind of get into a little bit of a past idea hiccup of like, oh, wait, but I shouldn't have whatever I want, like a guilt thing, And so I think it's just important to know that one of the most important things I ever learned was when someone makes their dreams come true, it uplifts the vibration of the planet. So don't be, so you can't, be held back enough to help other people go forward, right? And all the other things around that. And when you make your dreams come true, it literally uplifts the vibration of the planet. So if you want this planet to keep it will keep expanding and growing. And if you want to be a part of that, make your dreams come true, and you totally have that within your scope. So that would be my one thing I want to say.
That's super empowering. Katie Norris, thank you.
Thank you.
Visit our website, carefreemedium.com, or find us on social media @carefreemedium. Thanks for supporting Carefree and Conscious.